later. I'm going to actually get us live on LinkedIn, and I am doing this with one monitor today, so hopefully I can do it
Well,
right.
happy Friday, Damon. Gosh, you look so refreshed, man. You got the tan, you got the shirt going. Are you on vacation or something? What's going on down there?
Yeah, Kurt, I'm just not doing this from home. I'll say that.
How's that? All right, little working out of town, I guess we'll
Working
call it.
out of town. That's what I'm
right.
doing this week.
All right.
But we're live on LinkedIn now. If you're on LinkedIn listening to us, hey, drop a comment in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you've got any questions for us or the guest today, Joe. But welcome to the Manufacturing Ecommerce Success Series. I'm your co-host, Damon Pistolka. With me, I've got my partner in crime, my brother from another mother, Kurt Anderson. How's it going, man?
Oh, dude, I am so fired up for today, Damon. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. So happy Friday, everybody. Kurt Anderson here with my brother from the other mother, Damon Pistolka. So Damon, thank you for putting us on today. Guys, it's such an honor and thrill. I want to introduce Joe Sullivan. Joe, happy Friday, my friend. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. So, guys, I want to share a little insight on our dear friend Joe. And so, Damon, you remember our good buddy Chris Lukey. Joe's kind of he's the opposite here. So, Joe is originally from Milwaukee and finds himself in St. Louis. Our dear friend Chris Lukey was on the program last month. He's from St. Louis and finds himself in Milwaukee. So, a little interesting twist here.
Oh, yeah.
But Joe is an amazing industrial marketer for manufacturers. Great dad. I think, Joe, you just had one, right? Grace, Charlie, Jack. Do I have that correctly?
Okay.
Maybe not in the right order, but something like that, right?
You got the names right. So
awesome.
That's pretty good.
Awesome. Well, hey, congratulations. Super thrilled for you and your wife. I believe Julie you guys just had a baby this year, correct?
We did. Yeah. 10 weeks ago. So
10 weeks ago, man, boy, you are courageous having a baby through COVID. So God bless you. So again, we've got Joe, who's originally from Wisconsin. We've got Erin in the house. She's from Wisconsin. Val, Damon and I, we got together with Val in person yesterday. So got a little tour of her manufacturing operation at Manufacturing.
Nice.
Ingor, Gail. Happy Friday, everybody. Anyone on LinkedIn. So, Joe, let's talk a little bit about Gorilla 76. So you're fresh out of college. You're from Milwaukee. You find yourself in St. Louis going to college. I don't know if maybe you fell in love or some reason you stayed in St. Louis, but you and your partner, John, we started a business at just two young men. Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. We my business partner, John, and I, we met as interns way back in the summer of 2004, which was before our senior years of college. We were, my background was like visual communications, kind of grew up as an art kid. Graphic design was my thing and knew I was kind of headed into that sort of career path in some way. But we wound up working at a big marketing agency in St. Louis that summer called Zipatoni, which no longer exists, but it was like a 250 person firm. And worked on Miller beer that summer, which was kind of fun. As, college guys, we drank enough of that ourselves. Yeah. So, but we became buddies after college, and we were towards the end, we were looking for, trying to find jobs in advertising. We had complementary skill sets, him as a writer, me as a designer. And so we kind of put our brains together and helped build each other's portfolios. And then that turned into us doing some freelance work together. Like we both found jobs at agencies in St. Louis. But we kind of started doing freelance work and turned into, before we knew it, we were doing as much work outside of our day jobs as we were inside. And so we started writing a business plan and kind of had, making plans to start our own agency. And so it really only took a couple of years before we, started my first job in the summer of 2006. And by 2008, we had quit our jobs and we're doing, running Gorilla full time. We looked a lot different then than we do now, but we were, the two of us taking checks from anybody willing to write one and doing everything from designing and writing websites to, doing more traditional advertising work and figuring out, like Google Analytics had just hit the market in 2005. Like it was the early days of modern digital marketing. So we kind of came up with that and followed all along and learned a ton along the way. And so, 15 years later, we celebrated our 15th anniversary this summer. 2006 was technically when we started the firm. But so But yeah, celebrated our 15-year anniversary this summer. We're a 23-person agency now based in
Nice.
St. Louis. 17 of us are here, 6 are elsewhere. And it was about 10 years ago where we kind of looked at our client base and said, our best clients are what we at the time called blue collar brands, which was really construction and manufacturing. It was like, people who made stuff with their hands is really what we liked doing, where we were finding a niche. B2B companies that had, sold something complex, dealt with technical buyers, engineers, and plant managers, and people who were experiencing a problem and needed help. And so we just decided to go all in and own that. So it was probably about 10 years ago where we kind of almost rebranded ourselves as an industrial marketing agency, and everything has snowballed since then. We've gotten smarter. We've learned a lot from being niched down and talking to so many different companies and seeing patterns and figuring out what works in that sector. So that's us today.
That is awesome. Well, happy 15th anniversary. I absolutely love
Thank
that. Share with the folks, where did Gorilla 76 come from? I think it might have something to do with the date, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, the name was, the 76 comes from 7th month of 06, which is when we founded the firm. And Gorilla comes from sort of the other spelling of gorilla, like guerrilla marketing. And our inspiration was that in our earliest days, we were dealing with, taking no budget and figuring out how to do something out of the box and make it work. And so, the real answer is we were a couple of 24-year-old guys who didn't know what the hell we were doing. And 15 years later, that's still our name. So
exactly. Well, I absolutely love that. And so, two dudes fresh out of college. And what I absolutely love, guys, I dropped Joe's LinkedIn profile on his website. You have to check out their website. Absolutely love your website, Joe. And I love when you go to your team and you see, 23 strong. What an amazing accomplishment. Such an inspiration. Again, 2 young guys. And when you go, I checked out some of the bio videos, and you check out John, your partner. What a great guy he is. And he's like, you know what? He goes, we were 2 guys that wanted to bet on ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like, how cool is that at 23, 24 years old, fresh out of college, and you had a dream aspiration to start the company? I mean, what was going through your mind of family members? Like, talk a little bit about that entrepreneurial plunge that you took there.
Sure. Yeah. I think it was anybody else who's in the room right now that has come up through marketing, like, you're not exactly making a ton of money as an entry-level marketer. And like, it didn't take very long before we realized we could make a lot more money on our own and have a lot more flexibility and control over our lives than, getting paid entry-level salaries and slowly climbing up the ladder inside of the agency world that we were in. And so, and frankly, that's just what excited us. Like, we had a lot more fun doing our freelance work, sitting, anybody knows St. Louis, like, we'd sit out on the Del Mar Loop where I lived and drink PBRs and like come up with, ideas for, for our clients, as we called them at the time, the hair salon down the street, and John's cousin who was a dentist. And like, those were our clients in the earliest days. But we, I think that really, we just wanted to do our own thing. We kind of knew that from the beginning. And I don't know if we actually believed it was realistic, but at one point we, a couple of years in, we landed a job that was enough to pay us for probably 3 or 4 months and like pay our rent, and which was like this. And, we had no responsibilities in life. I'm married now with 3 kids, and it's a lot different situation, but, and so we just kind of saw that window and decided to go for it. In retrospect, we were probably stupid, but we did some things right along the way, enough so that we survived the first year, and then just kind of kept it going. So,
and that's really, I think, when you talk to business people, it's so interesting that 9 out of 10 people, they just took a chance. And then when they look back, they say the same thing that you said. It's like, I probably didn't make the best decision at that point, and we figured it out since.
Yeah,
totally.
And probably so I would never do that again. But hey, God bless you guys, you and John, great inspiration. I saw John ran across the state of Ohio. Do I have that correct? Man.
Pretty much. So John, as he will openly talk about, he was diagnosed with MS about, must have been about 5 years ago at this point. Low point of his life, just kind of didn't know what his future was going to be. And he just used it as a jumping off point for him personally, and for and it's been a huge inspiration to me and to, everybody who knows him really. But he kind of went from, one of the guys who'd like, this year he'd be working out regularly in good shape. And the next year he's put on 25 pounds and is, hasn't worked out in a year. And he went from being that back and forth guy to being like the best athlete I know, frankly. So he ran 6 marathons in 7 days, I believe it was, across the state of Ohio. He was on a relay team and it was all people with MS or with loved ones who had MS that, for that cause, there was a relay that went from LA to New York, and they had, X amount of people each take a leg of it. And he ran, his just happened to be somewhere in the middle of Ohio on that route. So it was unbelievable.
Hats off to John. And I just, and it's just a true credit of like the two of you, just such an inspiration of the two of you coming together, buddies, PBR buddies, and have a dream and a vision. Now, what I'd like to segue, and everybody on here, Aaron, Val, Ingor, Gail, you guys are going to love this part of the conversation, man. The culture that you guys, and again, I love your humility, your modesty. We're just two dudes starting up a business. The culture that you've created, in my opinion, is off the charts at Gorilla 76. I'd like to dig into that for a little bit. Talk about where did you, if you go to their website, you have, everybody is a thinker. When you look at your entire team, it starts with thinker. You have bio videos. You had an incredible post last night. I just want to share this real quick. I know you're hiring right now. Is that correct?
We are. Yeah.
You're hiring somebody for your client success team. And hopefully if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Sultana.
Yep.
She said she goes, when you asked about describing her job, and she's the client success director, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
High level of tenacity with a thick skin for tough conversations to create focus for our client success, man. I thought that was phenomenal. Annie comes on. She goes, "We are trusted advisors." And Peyton says, "We're accountability partners, man." I like you guys. If you get a chance, go on Joe's profile, check out that quick little video you did last night. But I mean, please share, how have you created such a vibrant, robust culture at Gorilla 76?
Sure. Well, I appreciate all the kind words. First of all, we work hard at it. It's not easy, but I give a lot of credit to John again here. He's, I run my accountabilities at the company are really sales and marketing for Gorilla. That's where I spend probably 80% of my time. John's are mostly on the people side, recruiting, retention, building culture. So we're in it together, of course, but I gotta, give him a nod because he's really the brains behind a lot of it. But, we've just learned over the years that we're big core value guys. It's for companies that have actually, taken the time to establish core values and truly hire and fire around it and try to, live by that and work with customers who align with those things. I think they know the value of that to maybe people who haven't been in a company where that matters. It might sound like fluff or kind of BS, which frankly is what it was to me until we really kind of did that. But we've got 5 core values at Gorilla: results, improvement, relationships, kindness, and inclusivity. And we just make all our decisions around these things. And we evaluate our people around those things. We're an EOS or traction company, for anybody who's familiar with that. And that sort of getting onto that operating system sort of even reinforced what we were already doing with core values and made it that much more important. But we kind of make our decisions around that. And honestly, what it comes down to is hiring people who fit these things. And we've got a pretty diverse group of people in terms of backgrounds and where they came from, and some from inside marketing, and some from inside manufacturing, and some from nowhere near it. But I think bringing different perspectives to the table, really living by those things and evaluating people on that. And when the times come, because we have to do it sometimes, letting people go when there's just not a core value alignment and we can't get it fixed. And so a lot of tough decisions come along with that as well. But really, I think it's you got to have some kind of North Star that you're trying to, trying to follow and just make the most important decisions around that.
Man, that is so good. Aaron led the manufacturing Twitter chat yesterday. And Aaron, you did an amazing job talking about, generational divides and recruiting. And so kudos to you. And I'm so glad you're here to hear Joe. I really would love for the two of you to connect. And again, Joe, hats off to you, man. I love the culture that you've built, on your website, Code of Ethics. You have a tag, you have a link right there. Here's our code of ethics. Here's who we are. I mean, like, you guys completely put yourselves out there. And what I love what you're doing there, and we're going to talk about, and I know we got a lot to talk about with marketing. We want to dig into this, but one of the top journalism schools in the country is right in your backyard. I believe you have multiple graduates from University of Missouri. I think John might be, so again, like, you're recruiting the top of the top. And so when you come into a client project, they have the trust, the faith, and peace of mind that when they partner with 76, man, you guys are together, you're moving as a team. I absolutely love. And again, we'll come back and we'll have you at another time, or we might even have your client success team on. I would love to do that, Damon, and just talk about the culture that you guys have created. So Joe, let's dig right into what we want to talk about today. So you have a 3-step marketing process for folks. Let's just plow right in and man, we're ready to learn. Let's do this.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think sometimes having a, kind of just creating a simple framework to, when people ask about, advice for marketing strategy as a manufacturer, it helps to just simplify it down into a few things and explain it that way. And so, I wrote an article, it was about a year ago, I think late last year, where I kind of did that. I spent some time thinking about it and saying, how can we simplify what for a manufacturing organization in general, like, what is a framework that makes sense from a marketing standpoint? And so I'll talk through that. So there are kind of 3 things. First step is focus. The second step is create. And the third step is distribute. And so I'll go into what each of those mean. First one, so number 1, focus. Really what we're talking about here is making a conscious decision about where you're going to direct your marketing energy in terms of, who you're targeting. It's really about tight targeting and making conscious decisions there. Almost any manufacturing organization that we have ever talked to, whether it's an OEM or a contract manufacturer or some custom manufacturer, a distributor, whatever it is, they'll all tell me they've got, we've got 10 different industry verticals we serve. We've got, 15 different product lines, and they're all important. And
we're different.
We're
different. We serve everyone. Yeah,
exactly. Right. And so this is a common thing, and not just in manufacturing, but probably with a lot of businesses. And I'm not here to try to transform a company's, the operational decisions they're making about how to run their business and their product lines and everything. But what I will say is, when it comes to marketing and marketing strategy, you've got to have some focus. If you really serve 10 different industry verticals and they're all important to you, and there's internal politics where, the salesperson selling into each of those verticals all needs equal attention, you're just not going to get anywhere. That's just the reality. You're not going to get anywhere unless you just have an astronomical budget. And if there are manufacturers out there who do, please point them my way, but I haven't seen it yet. So I think the idea is, whether it means making a conscious decision for, the next 9 to 15 months or whatever about, we are going to heavily target medical device manufacturers or tier 2 automotive or whatever it is, right? We got to make a decision, and it doesn't have to be vertical based targeting either. It could be focused on a product line, and maybe there are buyers that's applicable to cross vertical. It could be a persona based targeting, where you're targeting, process engineers from companies that are of this size and this geography and have these characteristics or whatever, right? But you got to make some conscious decision about who you're trying to reach, and then channel sufficient marketing resources into that if you expect to get anywhere. So I'll talk go a little bit deeper here, and then I'll stop and let you guys have questions. But so when this first bucket of the 3, focus, what we're really talking about is make a conscious decision about who you are going to be targeting, deeply understand those people. And what I mean there is, what do these companies look like? in terms of, firmographic information, like how big are they? Where are they located? What are common characteristics? But then you got to go deeper and say, who are the buying process influencers inside of those organizations who we need to reach? And in most cases, for the companies we consult, there's almost always an engineer. There's somebody who's a technical professional who is experiencing a problem that our client can solve, or trying to achieve an outcome that our client can help them get to. And that's often the first person you need to reach, because if you're targeting procurement, it's way too late. They're too far down the buying path. Nice. So we got to be a consultant and advisor to the people who are going to influence that buying process. And that becomes more true the more complex your sale is, the more complex your product or service is, the more consultative your sale tends to be. You got to get in there early and be influential there. So understand who you're targeting, understand those people deeply. We're huge advocates of customer interviews. The first thing we do with any of our clients is say, we need to talk to 10 of your customers. And we get in there and we interview them. We got a framework for doing that to make sure we understand what their buying process looks like, what matters to them in their job, how they evaluate partners like our client. So gather that information, and now you can start to formulate a content strategy and frankly, an overarching marketing strategy around those things, the thing that the people you're trying to reach actually care about. That's what your marketing strategy needs to stem from. So that's bucket one, focus. I'll stop there.
Moment of silence, Damon. Just a moment. Let's just savor this for, he's in St. Louis, some of the best barbecue in the world, let's just savor this like a good barbecue right now. Guys, let's unpack this real quick, Joe.
Yeah.
All right, first, so yesterday, I again, my dear friend Val, how we just talked about this yesterday. We had an awesome meeting. Manufacturing is 100+ manufacturer. Met with Val and the president of the company, and they're doing an amazing job. Exactly what you're describing, Joe. Just getting laser focused, trimming things down, some legacy processes, or like you said, some resistance type situations. Aha moment for me right now, little Damon. I don't know about you. If you get to procurement, it's too late. Oh my dude, like that has to be your next blog post. So guys, you have to sign up for Joe's newsletters. I learn something new every time. We're going to talk, and hopefully Joe will save time for pricing. We got to geek out on our pricing conversation, but tons of information. I'll stop on this because I know you have so much more to unpack. I think if I ever found this on either your newsletter or on your website, strategy must precede implementation. Strategy must precede implementation. Dude, let's blow us away with number 2. Let's keep this rolling.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. So we've talked about focus, dialing in on the right people from the right companies, understanding deeply what matters to them, and formulating a strategy around that. So the next thing is bucket 2 is create. And what I'm talking about there is content. So if we have uncovered what these engineers and these plant managers and these CFOs all care about, which are different things inside the same company in a complex buying process, especially, and we understand that deeply. We've heard from the mouths of people who are them what they actually care about. Now we need to demonstrate thought leadership around that stuff. So we're going to take the words that we've heard from them, and we're going to formulate a content strategy, and we're going to figure out the right medium to produce content in. What you're doing right now is an example of it, Damon and Kurt, like running a webinar series, right? You choose your audience and you understand what matters to them. You bring in guests that can speak to that and facilitate great conversations. I love webinars personally. I think it's a really underutilized, or most people do it wrong, but we won't go there now. Like that's another topic. You guys do a nice job with it. But so all right, so content, create content around the things that matter. What can content be? It can mean a lot of things. It can be a webinar like this. It could be a podcast that's very targeted at your audience and provides value to them in some way. It can be written content, blog content that's educational in nature. It could be, visual stuff, infographics. It could be, putting a videographer on site for 2 days and if you're a manufacturing organization, bring a videographer in and have, the technical experts inside your company talk on camera. Maybe 2 of them talk together because it's more natural then. And you've got some very specific topics that they're going to teach about and educate on that resemble their sales conversations. and produce, some great content that way. I mean, there's so many ways to do content, and I think you have to play to your own strengths. If you got people who can write, then do some content that's written. If you're comfortable on camera, I think video's even better, way better actually in this point in time. But you kind of play to your strengths, use the resources you've got. The most important thing is that you're producing content that addresses the stuff your audience cares about, like we were just talking about. And that's what focus influences create, right? We got to be focused on making the right kinds of content assets. Now, okay, so that kind of sums up create. And I think the difference here between now and if you were talking to me 5 years ago is like, we're talking about creating content that, probably filling your website and your learning center, resource center, blog with all this content. And I still think that's great, but I think you also need to be thinking of the platforms you're creating it for. You guys are broadcasting this on LinkedIn Live. People are consuming this inside of LinkedIn, right? Like there's, I used to write blog content. I'd write a 1,500 word blog post and it would take me 10 hours to write. And then I'd break out 4 pieces of that and publish them as LinkedIn posts. Now I do it the opposite way. Now I publish on LinkedIn first, and I see what gets engagement and what people respond to. And then I go reinvest more time into the stuff that actually matters. So I think when you're talking about creating content, it's not only what assets matter, but it's in what medium can I reach my audience where they are already consuming information. And then you have to create content for that platform in the format that matter. Like you can't write a 1,500 word piece for LinkedIn, and you can publish articles there, but you're probably better off writing short form stuff or short videos. You're not going to post a 20-minute video in your LinkedIn feed because nobody's going to see it. LinkedIn's going to downplay that with their algorithm. So I guess that's sort of where I'm going here. You got to think about the medium as well.
Okay. No, good. Gosh. And go ahead, Damon.
You dropped some real bombs here. I just, educate on topics brought up in the sales process. I think we forget that, and it's to really to understand, because we're sitting there. Most companies we talk with, they go, "Oh, we don't know what we should talk about. What should we talk about?" You just dropped the nugget of the day on that. Is just think back to your sales conversations. What do your customers want to know? What are they asking you? And just educate people on those. That is the simplest and easiest thing to do if you understand that. The second thing you said, and then I'm done, is try a LinkedIn post to see what's popular with your audience or what resonates with them, and then build content around that. I think 2 great nuggets right there.
Oh, it was phenomenal. And I think, and again, on your website, create exceptional experiences, educate. I can't get over when you get to procurement, you're too late. So Joe, take it away, man. We're going to stop. You just blow us away with number 3, man. What do you got now?
Yeah, sure. Well, I appreciate it, guys. So, all right. So we're focused on the right people. We understand what matters to them because we've done the research, then talked to them and heard from, your sales team, what they're hearing from them secondhand. You've made amazing content that addresses that exact stuff. You figure out what platforms to publish it in where you can actually reach your audience. Okay, now we're going to talk about distribution. So that's the third of the 3 buckets. Is now we have to proactively get this content in front of people where they consume information. And again, I'll come back to what I said a few minutes ago. Like if this was 5 years ago, I would have been talking a lot about content for SEO or search engine optimization. I still am a big advocate of SEO. I know you are too, Kurt. And you need a good SEO strategy. But at the same time, I think it's a mistake to sit back and wait for people to show up at your doorstep. It's becoming harder and harder to win that game with the saturation of content picks up. And the other trend that I've seen happen over the last year or two, that I saw an article recently that summed it up so well, written by Rand Fishkin. If you guys know him, he's kind of the godfather of SEO, of modern SEO from
Moz.
Started Moz, original SEO Moz, and now just called Moz, and he's since exited. But Rand Fishkin's article he wrote, which I can send you guys a link to, but he essentially, as one of the biggest advocates for SEO out there, what he has essentially identified that we fully agree with is that the big media companies, Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, they have started catering. They've started adjusting their algorithms to get you to consume content right there on their platform. And a perfect example of this, anybody who's super active on LinkedIn knows that if you write a post and you put a link to something in that post, LinkedIn is going to shut down the distribution of that post. They're not going to shut it down, but if you didn't put that link there to your blog post that you just talked about, you'd probably get 5 to 10 times as much exposure for it. And the reason for that is because LinkedIn wants you to stay on their platform. It makes sense, right? The more people are on their platform, they want you there. On their platform, seeing their sponsored content, because that's how they make money. And so, and that's why you see a lot of people, I do it myself. Like the hack is, see the first comment and I'll drop a link in there to the article I referenced or whatever. But it's a microcosm of the bigger thing that's going on out there, which is the big media companies want you to stay on their platform. And it's for that reason, whether we want to or not, if we want exposure, we have to go create content that is meant to be consumed inside of those platforms. We can't write a blog post and link to it in LinkedIn and expect that, we're going to get, all this visibility on our site. We have to write bits of content meant to be consumed right there on LinkedIn. And then the other side of the coin there, that is the human element of it, not just how to get around what the big media companies are doing. But the other side of it is that think about your own mindset when you're sitting there, I always say, like, you're sitting there at 10 o'clock watching Sports Center and you've got your phone, you got your phone in your hand and you're scrolling through LinkedIn or Facebook just to, because that's just what you do, right? Like you're looking at what your friends or family are posting and you're, scrolling through your LinkedIn feed or Facebook feed or whatever. Well, the thing is, like, you're there doing that. And sorry, I'm totally losing my train of thought here. But the content that is being distributed is you have to have stuff that's created right there for that platform. If you're going to capture people's attention.
Well,
so
that's
totally losing my train of
that's
thought
good. And Joe, if I can share a little, and maybe
please.
This might be a guy analogy. I'm sorry. Do you guys know Dave and Buster's? You guys ever go to Dave and Buster's? So here's my SEO analogy for you. Dave and Buster's is an awesome success story. If I have it correctly, Texas, maybe Dallas, maybe somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. There was a bar next to a game room. And the bar owner noticed that, like, the guys would come over, they would drink, and then they'd run next door to play games. Then they play games. They're like, hey, we need more drinks. Then they go back next door. They kept going back and forth. They're like, hey, Dave and Buster's. It was Dave's, whoever was who. They combine it. My SEO to tie in with what you're saying, it's like create a Dave and Buster's, like you just said, create the exceptional experience. Let them come into your facility where they don't have to leave, where they don't have to go next door to play the arcade games, where they don't have to go next door to get a drink or a sandwich or whatever. Create that wonderful, engaging experience. So again, Val, they do incredible, man. Oh my God, Damon, if you could have taken this tour with me yesterday, the experience of seeing that, and it was like Dave and Buster's for me. But that's exactly what you're describing is like, how can you bring that experience to their home? I'm on my mobile. I'm 3,000, Damon's 3,000 miles away from us. How can we bring that experience to them, whether it's through content, through mobile or whatever? When they have a problem, how can we be there at that moment to help them? Like, hey, dude, I have your back. So like Erin has an amazing firm. They do e-commerce solutions. So if I need an e-commerce provider, she's doing an incredible job putting out just a wealth of information that I can establish a relationship with Erin way before we ever get on a call, Zoom or whatever, So anyway, I love what you're saying. So to recap, focus, create, distribution, right? These are our three. Yeah. Those are the three.
Yeah. And I want to hit one more thing there on that third bucket. Where I was kind of going with this is you need an SEO strategy. Yes, absolutely. But you also have to proactively go out there and figure out how to get content in front of people that fit your ideal customer profile, but may not be in buying mode right now. And think about it this way. Like for any company out there that, especially, and the higher priced your product is, or your service is, and the more complex and longer sales cycle it is, the more this is true. But think about what percentage of your audience is actually in a buy cycle at this moment in time. It's probably very small. actively buying at this exact moment in time.
Right.
Like for me, targeting mid-sized manufacturers, how many of the thousands of companies in my potential audience are actually seeking an agency or a consultant or something right now? Probably like 1 to 3% of them max. And so for me to rely on Google is a mistake, because you go to Google when you have a need and you're looking for a solution.
Right.
And most agency people are not, or most manufacturing people are not out there looking for an agency right now. So I can't just rely on Google. I need to figure out how to go out to CEOs and presidents and VPs of sales, who's my audience, at mid-sized manufacturing companies, and create value for them when they're not looking, and not deliver a sales message to them, but deliver value around the things that I know they care about, because we've been working with them for the last 10 plus years. And because we interview people who look like them. And because I run a podcast with 74 episodes behind me where I interview manufacturing leaders and I hear what's going on in their brains. And so it's all those insights that help us craft content that we then go out there and proactively distribute. And we put paid budget behind it. We say, LinkedIn, show this short video of me talking about why manufacturers need to shift their mindset about the role marketing needs to play. It's not a promotion of Gorilla. It's just talking about that. And and LinkedIn, go show that to people who fit this job description with these 3 job titles in the United States at companies of this size. But when they see that again and again, and other pieces of content that relate to it, and then case studies that tie back to it, all of a sudden the consultation request forms start happening, right? And that's exactly, that is in a nutshell what we do. It's you focus on the right people, you create amazing content, and then you proactively go out there and you figure out, how are we going to get this stuff in front of them to build brand affinity, to build trust, to create a position of thought leader, so that when they do enter a buy cycle, those 97 to 99% who aren't right now, they go to Google and they see Gorilla 76 alongside 9 other companies, they recognize us immediately, and we're the first ones they call. So I'll stop. Yeah.
No, that was fantastic. And so 2 things. I'm glad you mentioned that. So the Manufacturing Executive, awesome podcast. Joe, I was a guest just recently. We had so much fun. Appreciate it. Little hint, there might be a couple people in our crowd today that might be phenomenal guests for you. Speaking of potential guests, my dear friend Erin, my buddy, my bestie in your home state, Wisconsin, she has a question for you. Joe, was a takeaway from the Fishkin article that you got to pay to play to attract audience to your hosted content?
Great question, Aaron. And in short, yes, or that's a piece of it. But I think the most important takeaway was that you need to figure out how to use these platforms and create content that's meant to be consumed inside of those platforms, as opposed to making your website the home base where everything lives. And, probably my best illustration of that is, I think in 2019, I wrote close to 50,000 words of blog content on our website, which is almost a book.
I'm just going to say, get a book there.
Last year, that was probably 10,000 words. And this year, I don't know, maybe 2,000. And the reason for that is I'm producing all my content inside of LinkedIn, because on my website, that blog post at 1,500 words that, I publish and gets some play in SEO and gets some play after we distribute it via email, and maybe over the course of a year gets, read 50 or 100 times. Well, when I publish something on LinkedIn and it's one of the better performing posts that took me 25 minutes to write as opposed to 10 hours, I get more exposure for that one post than I did for something that took 10 to 20 times as long to produce. And so you got to figure out how you can get to your audience and how you can create content that's meant to be consumed inside of these platforms. And you're going to see a lot more reward from that, in my opinion. And that's kind of it was great to see somebody who really knows what he's talking about in Rand Fishkin sort of validate this thing that we've been seeing happening over the last year or two.
Well, phenomenal point. That's going to tie into, I know time-wise, Joe, we could go all day, dude, but I know and I want to get back to the tables because I know people are dying to talk to you. But again, you have a fantastic newsletter. Oh my gosh, you've dropped so many phenomenal bombs here just to help us as entrepreneurs, as business owners. your newsletter, you have, if you're not seeing ROI, if you recall, you said, here's your top 5 reasons why. Do you remember that post that came out recently? Or maybe it was a newsletter, and just real quick, you're doing things wrong, and it's hard to, Damon, how often what went right, what went wrong, how can we get better, right?
Constantly tweaking.
Success, ineffective strategies, not the right measurements, unrealistic timelines, measuring tactics, not the entire marketing effort. Man, I love that. So I'm going to I wanted to save a couple minutes for this. You and I are huge advocates. I feel we're bond brothers here on pricing. If you guys, again, please connect with Joe on LinkedIn. Go to Joe's website, Gorilla 76. Joe, if I go to your website and I'm a manufacturer and I'm like, I've seen these blog posts, I've heard your wonderful, amazing podcast, I'm catching all this content as you just described, right? Steps 1, 2, and 3. I go to your website. Am I a good fit? Well, I would have to call customer service or like sales. What's your pricing? When you go on your website, your pricing is front and center. And what I love about this, and I'm eager to hear your response here for manufacturers. If my budget is here and you're here, you just did yourself a favor, because now we didn't waste each other's time because I'm not a good fit. I love that you did that. Please talk about, we hear a lot of manufacturers, we can't put pricing on the website. You strongly encourage it. It was in one of your recent email newsletters. You talk the talk and you put it right on your website. Please share your philosophy on pricing on websites.
Yeah, would love to. We had fun talking about this. Kurt, you were on my podcast. We got lots of Kurt fans here, I'm sure. So go listen to
my mother's a big Kurt fan. So
yeah. So, and I know we align on our thinking on this largely, but the thing you hear all the time is when we talk about this topic with manufacturers, well, we can't put our pricing on our website. We sell, CapEx equipment that's super custom, and every sale's different, and there's so many different variables. And I think they're thinking of it the wrong way. What I'm not recommending necessarily is that you put on your website that the food packaging machinery you sell costs $456,217.18. What I am talking about is saying that, for example, our solutions typically cost between $200,000 and $500,000, and here are some of the variables that may make it a $200,000 solution versus a $500,000 solution, and break that stuff down. Talk about ROI, talk about total cost of ownership, talk about, most of our competitors sell this thing and it lasts about 5 years or 10 years, and maintenance costs tend to be this. With our solution, you're going to pay twice as much, but it's the last 30 years and, blah, blah, blah. Talk about timeline to ROI and what, how much more efficiently your production line is going to run because you're implementing this thing here, and break down those savings over time that offset the cost of the capital investment. I'm kind of just spitballing here, but the idea is your audience cares about the price. They just do. And it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter whether you're selling a commodity or you're selling something super complex and custom. Money always matters. And at some point in the conversation, it's going to happen. So just be as transparent as you can up front. And it makes the content and your website so much more valuable to somebody in their buying process. It's going to keep them engaged, get them to move on to the next page and keep reading, get them to pick up the phone and realize I can have a conversation about money without feeling so awkward. So that's kind of my general take, is you have a lot more to gain than to lose. And you need to stop being scared about that your competitors are going to see it, because they already know what you charge anyway. You just are trying to pretend they don't. So I don't know. That's my take.
Gosh, you know what? And Joe, we got to have you back, because we could have a whole session just on this. Damon, I know you are a huge proponent of this. We do e-commerce training, Joe, and we could go on and on about how we try to encourage our custom manufacturers. There are so many advantages. You now can put product on Amazon. Amazon is attacking the search engines, and we show very specific examples on how, you can own a search page. Folks, your buyers, those personas are going on Amazon. Sometimes they're not going to Google. So if you don't have a presence in some capacity on Amazon, you're just not in the game. what do we like to say? You are the best kept secret. So, man, we could go on and on. Joe, I want to get back to the table so the folks can talk to you. You know, I have a burning question I've been dying to ask you the entire podcast. I don't know if you see this one coming. Baseball season, playoffs are in the air, right? Milwaukee, St. Louis. Who do you root for, dude? Are you a Cards fan, Brewers fan? Where are you there?
That's a great question, and it's a very sensitive subject because
I can imagine. Yeah.
you know, I grew up in Milwaukee. I lived there until I came down here to go to Wash U in St. Louis for college when I was 18.
Yep.
And I'm 39 now, so I've now officially lived more than half my life in St. Louis.
Yep.
I have 2 kids running around with Cardinals gear on. My wife's a lifelong Cardinals fan.
Yep.
But I grew up going to, we split season tickets for the Brewers with like 8 other families. I'd go to, 7, 8 games a year, whatever it was. And they were horrible. They finished in last place every single year when I was a kid. But it's hard to let go of like what's in your blood kind of.
Yeah.
And plus I've got my little brother who's like a hardcore sports fanatic in every way. And if he ever got any wind of me cheering for the Cardinals, he'd have my head. So I'm kind of we're going to let the kids be Cardinals fans as we should. We live in St. Louis, but it's still the Brewers are kind of my,
they're still in
my
your
heart.
blood. They're still in your blood. Well, I have to say, so I've been to every stadium, and 2 of the most phenomenal baseball environments are hands down St. Louis and Milwaukee, man. Nobody knows how to do baseball like they do in Milwaukee and St. Louis. So 2 great, amazing cities. Joe, I want to give a huge thank you. I'm going to close out with this. So I saw that I'll change gears of football. I saw you're a Packers fan, right? So you're staying true to the Packers. Is that
true?
Yeah.
I mean, that's I can't let go of that one.
Damon and I, we're older dudes. We're way past you, but let's close things out with a Lombardi quote. How's this?
Oh yeah, I like it.
Okay. Football is perseverance. And I'll tell you, please, Annie, Peyton, and Sultana, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Please give the 3 of them kudos from your buddy, Kurt. So when you listen to their video and they talk about that tenacity and relentless attitude and so on and so forth on accountability, this quote I felt came to mind for Gorilla 76. Vince Lombardi says, football is perseverance, self-denial, hard work, sacrifice, dedication, and respect for authority. So, dude, kudos to you and John. You are such an inspiration on what you've done for Gorilla 76, what you've done for your community. And just think about this, Joe. 23 people call your place not just a work, they call it a career. You are providing careers for folks. They're going on building their families. Their kids are going to dance lessons, Little League, so on and so forth. And you guys have been rocking it for 15 years. So, man, we salute you for what you've done for the manufacturing community as well. So awesome work, awesome job. Thank you for taking time with us today. Guys, we're going to close out, head back to the tables. Wish everybody an amazing, awesome weekend. Go out and just keep crushing it for manufacturing. Damon, my brother, take it away, dude.
All right. Well, thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Joe. Awesome. You dropped some nuggets for people. I hope they listen. We're taking notes. If they didn't get the notes down, they can always go back to my profile or visit us at my website next week, and we'll be ready to go there. I'm going to drop us off of LinkedIn Live, and then we're going to go back to the tables in Remo. If you're listening to us on LinkedIn Live, you can always join us here in Remo and talk to our speakers after. So remember that. But we're going off LinkedIn and go back to Remo, the tables. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
All right.